West Yorkshire is a landscape shaped by rugged moors and proud industrial towns, places built on centuries of hard work and history. But behind that familiar scenery lies something much more unsettling. In its castles, houses, and famous halls, the past doesn't rest. In this first video exploring the region, I've gathered 5 of West Yorkshire's most unnerving tales, hauntings rooted in heartbreak, power, and folklore, told across generations and guaranteed to send a shiver down your spine. To the thousands who visit Temple Newsam each year, it's one of Yorkshire's most magnificent stately homes. But for those who've worked in its grand halls after dark, or walked its corridors all alone, it's known by another name entirely: the most haunted house in Yorkshire. The story of this house is built on a foundation of tragedy, secrets, and violence. But one spirit, the heartbroken Blue Lady, is the most famous of its many ghosts. In this story, we're going to hear about the dark history and persistent legends that might just keep her, and many others, trapped within Temple Newsam's walls. Before this grand Tudor mansion ever stood here, the land had a very different and very mysterious set of owners: the Knights Templar. Sometime in the late 12th century, they established a large agricultural estate here. While historical records show they were focused on farming and wool production, legends have a way of filling in the gaps. Folklore tells of secret rituals that soaked into the land, tainting the ground long before the first stone of the current house was laid in the early 1500s. Whether you believe in curses or not, it's this ancient, troubled history that sets the stage for centuries of tragedy and paranormal claims. The most famous and heartbreaking story to come out of Temple Newsam is the legend of the Blue Lady. The ghost is widely believed to be a young woman named Mary Ingram, whose portrait still hangs in the house's Gothic room. As the story goes, sometime in the 17th century, a 14-year-old Mary was returning from a party when her carriage was ambushed by highwaymen. They tore a beautiful string of pearls from her neck, a cherished christening gift from her grandfather. Distraught, Mary returned home, but the next day the trauma had wiped her memory of the robbery, replacing it with an obsessive belief that she had simply misplaced the necklace. She frantically searched the house, unpicking cushions and lifting floorboards, growing more distressed by the day. She refused to eat or drink, and just 2 weeks later, she tragically died. But her spirit, it said, never left. For years, staff and visitors have reported encounters with a hazy, blue female figure, forever searching. They talk about sudden, unexplained drops in temperature and carpets that seem to ripple as if an invisible person is walking over them. Some have even claimed to hear a faint, desperate whisper echoing in the empty rooms. "Where are my pearls? My beautiful pearls?" Do you think a single traumatic event is powerful enough to trap a spirit for centuries? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The Blue Lady isn't alone. Temple Newsam is supposedly home to a whole host of other restless spirits. One of the most terrifying tales is that of Phoebe Gray. The story goes that in 1704, the young servant girl was murdered by an estate worker named William Collinson. It's said her terrified screams can still be heard from the cellars and the back staircase where she met her end. Staff and paranormal investigators have even reported hearing a dragging sound, believed to be the horrifying sound of her body being taken away. Then there's the figure of a monk in a brown hooded robe seen wandering the grounds. What's odd about this is that the Knights Templar weren't monks, and they famously wore white mantles with a red cross, not brown robes. So, is he a remnant of that era, or another lost soul entirely? The stories are kept alive by countless modern accounts from staff and visitors. Even the aristocracy got involved. Charles Wood, the second Viscount Halifax, and a noted paranormal enthusiast whose son inherited the house, claimed to have had his own encounter. He said that one night he saw a woman in a blue shawl pass silently through his room, though he later admitted he could never be sure he hadn't dreamt it. More recently, visitor assistants have reported doors slamming on their own and hearing enormous, startling crashes, only to investigate and find nothing out of place. Disembodied voices, oppressive atmospheres, and that constant, chilling feeling of being watched are all common experiences for those who work within these walls. It's as if the ghosts are stuck in a tragic loop, forced to repeat their final moments for anyone unlucky enough to be there. From its early connection to secretive nights to the tragic, repeating loop of the Blue Lady, Temple Newsam isn't haunted by a single ghost. It's haunted by layers of history, sorrow, and unforgettable folklore. The sheer number of distinct apparitions and the consistency of eyewitness reports make a powerful case for its chilling reputation. What happens when a family's story is so powerful, it never really ends? When secrets and tragedies get trapped within ancient castle walls. Welcome to Hazlewood Castle, a place of stunning beauty, deep history, and long-held secrets. Many who have stayed here believe it's also a place where the spirits of its longest residents may have never truly checked out. The story of Hazlewood is really the story of one remarkable family, the Vavasors. Their name first appears in the historical record right after the Norman conquest. In 1086, the Domesday Book noted Morga le Vavasor as the new lord of the land, and his family would be connected to this spot for the next 800 years. Their name, which comes from a term for a high-ranking vassal, became synonymous with Hazlewood itself. They weren't just residents, they were survivors who navigated some of the most turbulent moments in English history. As a staunchly Catholic family, they clung to their faith through the Reformation, and local tradition holds that the castle served as a secret refuge for priests. Their loyalty and their nerve were often tested. On Palm Sunday, 1461, the din of the Battle of Towton, the bloodiest battle ever fought on English soil, raged just a few miles away. During the English Civil War, the family is said to have sided with the king, a decision that brought conflict right to their doorstep. For centuries they endured, but by 1908, weighed down by debt, their long reign came to an end. Sir William Vavasor sold the estate. Interestingly, a branch of the Vavasor family later became famous in New Zealand for founding the Vavasor Winery in the 1980s, carrying the ancient name into a new era. With the Vavasors gone, Hazlewood entered a century of upheaval. It was owned by a solicitor, then served as a maternity hospital during and after the Second World War. From 1971 to 1996, it became a quiet retreat for Carmelite friars. Each new chapter added another layer to its story. This constant change, these new lives within old walls, begs the question, did these moments of intense joy, sorrow, and change leave a permanent mark on the castle? Some believe the answer is a resounding yes. The most frequent report from guests and staff is of a dark-robed figure, often described as a monk. He's most commonly seen in the Tansy Room, where guests have felt his imposing presence. This same figure has been spotted walking across St. Margaret's courtyard, only to vanish into an old yew tree. Many link these sightings to the Carmelite friars who lived here for over 2 decades. Then there is the heartbreaking sound of a baby crying in the night. In 2003, a guest repeatedly complained about the noise, but there were no infants staying anywhere near her room. This is widely thought to be a spiritual echo from the castle's time as a maternity hospital, where it's reported over 2,500 babies were born between 1939 and 1953. Housekeepers have their own tales to tell. One was cleaning the lavender room when she started chatting with what she thought was a guest in the adjoining bathroom. After getting no reply, she peeked in, only to find the bathroom was, and had been, completely empty. Other stories speak of shadowy figures in the rose bedroom, a spectral priest in the library, and a mysterious dark lady. Some speculate this could be the ghost of Anne Vavasor, a maid of honour to Queen Elizabeth I, who was at the centre of a courtly scandal. In 1997, the castle was converted into a luxury hotel and has been under the ownership of Ashdale Hotels since around 2008. Rather than shying away from its spooky reputation, the hotel embraces it. Publicity openly tells of hauntings and ghostly figures, making it a destination for paranormal fans and curious travellers alike. If you find these stories as fascinating as we do, and want more tales from around spooky Britain, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. Whispers are heard in corridors, the temperature suddenly drops, and unexplainable things are recorded. East Riddlesden Hall is supposedly home to more than one ghost. Let's hear about its most chilling tales, because the legends that surround this place are more than anyone bargained for. East Riddlesden Hall, a 17th century manor house in West Yorkshire, managed by the National Trust. On the surface, it's a beautiful piece of history, mostly built around the 1640s. But its folklore has earned it a chilling reputation, with some calling it one of the most haunted places in Yorkshire. While a dwelling has been on this site for centuries, the spirits of this manor's turbulent past seem to have never left. This isn't just a house with a ghost, it's a house supposedly crowded with them. From heartbroken ladies and tragic accidents to phantom animals and unseen forces that move objects. Staff have shared so many strange stories that local law says not a month goes by without some kind of paranormal activity. The most famous spirit here is the Grey Lady. The legend, which is said to stretch back to the Civil War, is a brutal story of betrayal and revenge. As the tale goes, the master of the house came home from battle to find his wife had been unfaithful. In a fit of rage, he murdered her lover. But for his wife, he chose a slower, more cruel fate. According to the legend, he had her sealed inside a room. Some versions even say she was bricked into a wall, leaving her to starve to death. Today, her lonely spirit is said to wander the corridors, forever searching for the lover she lost. Her presence is most often reported in the room now known as the Grey Lady's Chamber. Tour guides even tell stories about kids on school trips asking about the lady in the corner, only for everyone to turn and find the room completely empty. But the Grey Lady is far from alone. The grounds have their own tragic tales. Near the estate's lake, visitors have reported seeing the Blue Lady. The folklore here tells of a woman who drowned in this water, possibly after being thrown from her horse. Her apparition is sometimes seen on the bank, staring down into the dark water, as if searching for her own lost body. In fact, some accounts mention multiple spectral women connected to the lake, including a white lady, who also supposedly died after a fall from a horse while hunting. These stories paint a picture of a landscape soaked in tragedy, with spirits tied to the very ground where they met their untimely end. The hauntings aren't just sightings, the house itself seems to get involved. Staff have told stories for years about antique furniture being moved to different locations and bedding in locked rooms appearing ruffled, as if someone just got out of bed. Unexplained footsteps are apparently a regular thing, heard running upstairs. The most unsettling story is about a cradle in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Legend has it, this antique cradle rocks all on its own, with the activity reportedly being most frequent on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Whether it's the Grey Lady herself or another unseen entity, the thought of a spirit tending to an empty cradle is deeply unnerving. And it's not just human spirits here either. The grounds are supposedly haunted by a whole collection of phantom animals. Visitors and staff have talked about seeing ghostly dogs and cats. In the old barn, now the tea room, local legend even names one of the spirits, a woman called Alice, who is sometimes seen with her phantom cat. Most menacing of all is the tale of a large black dog with red eyes, sometimes described as a devil hound. These stories of non-human spirits add another layer to the hall's paranormal ecosystem, suggesting the entire estate, not just the house, is a hotspot of activity. Listening to these stories, you can really feel their collective weight. East Riddlesden Hall is more than just a beautiful old building. It's a place where history and haunting folklore are impossible to separate. From the heartbreaking legend of the Grey Lady to reports of a cradle that rocks on its own, it feels like every corner has a secret to tell. For centuries, a dark and imposing manor has stood watch over the city of Bradford. From the outside, Bolling Hall is a museum, a preserved piece of English history. Its oldest parts have medieval roots, but what you see today is a sprawling home shaped over hundreds of years. Within its ancient stone walls, however, some say history isn't just remembered, it's relived. Staff and visitors talk about phantom footsteps, doors slamming shut on their own, and that chilling feeling of being watched. The story that truly defines this place is a terrifying tale of war and mercy, born from the chaos of the English Civil War. The history is real. In 1643, the Royalist army, led by the Earl of Newcastle, laid siege to Bradford. After a bloody battle, the Earl made Bolling Hall his headquarters. But here is where history blends with a chilling legend. As the story goes, the Earl, enraged by his losses, gave a ruthless order. His troops were to show no mercy to the townspeople the following day. That night, as the Earl slept in what is now known as the Ghost Room, he was violently woken. According to the legend, a spectral figure of a woman in white stood at the foot of his bed. She wasn't just a passive spirit. The story says she grabbed his bedsheets, her voice filled with anguish as she pleaded, "Pity poor Bradford." Shaken by the ghostly encounter, the Earl supposedly changed his mind and revoked the order, sparing the town from a massacre. To this day, people claim to see the White Lady, a pale apparition gliding silently near the main staircase, her duty seemingly done. But the Lady in White isn't the only spirit said to linger in Bolling Hall. In the Blue Room, a space notorious for its reported paranormal activity, people describe a very different kind of energy. Visitors and paranormal investigators speak of a stern-looking woman in Victorian clothing who stands rigidly, watching every move. Unlike the gentle White Lady, her presence is often described as unsettling. Objects have allegedly been thrown across the room, and many report an unnerving cold atmosphere. This same room is also said to be haunted by another figure, a man in a long coat, often seen standing silently by the window, as if waiting for someone who will never arrive. The heartbreaking sound of a baby crying is also frequently reported in the former nursery, despite the room being empty. Some have even reported seeing the ghost of a distressed woman in a pink dress, perhaps forever searching for the child whose cries seem to echo through the halls. It's not just apparitions that make Bolling Hall's reputation so terrifying, it's the constant, unexplainable things that people report. The heavy scent of sweet tobacco smoke is said to hang in the air in rooms where smoking has been banned for decades. Disembodied voices and heavy breathing are reportedly heard in locked-off corridors. Doors are known to open and slam shut, and some paranormal groups have even claimed it happens as if in direct response to their questions. And really unsettling are the reports of physical encounters. In the darkest corners of the hall, some visitors have claimed to feel the terrifying sensation of cold hands reaching out to grab them, or a sudden, forceful tug on their clothes. Dark shadow figures are reportedly seen walking the corridors, only to vanish the moment you turn to get a better look. These are just a few of the stories that have seeped into the very fabric of Bolling Hall. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain at a historical location? Let us know in the comments below. Could a person really be in two places at the same time? It sounds impossible, but at Oakwell Hall in Yorkshire, a chilling legend suggests it might have happened. The story goes that in 1684, the family of William Batt watched in shock as he walked through the halls of his home, leaving a single, bloody footprint behind, all while he was miles away in London, being killed in a duel. Tucked away in the village of Birstall, Oakwell Hall is an incredible Elizabethan manor built back in 1583 by a man named John Batt. It's a Grade 1 listed building, which means it's so well preserved it looks almost the same as it did in the 17th century. The Batt family who built it were powerful, but their luck ran out during the English Civil War. They sided with the Royalists, and when the parliamentarians won, the family was hit with a massive fine they never really recovered from. It's believed the hall later became a boarding school, and it's here that it earned a small place in literary history. A young Charlotte Bronte is said to have visited, and was so taken with its old, sprawling character that she used it as the main inspiration for the house Fieldhead in her novel, Shirley. The house's most famous ghost story is all about William Batt, the 25-year-old grandson of the man who built the hall. Legend has it that on the evening of December the 9th, 1684, the family at Oakwell was stunned when William suddenly appeared. He was supposed to be in London on business, but there he was, walking right through the main hall. He looked pale, didn't say a word, and marched straight up the stairs into his bedroom. Confused, his family went after him, but when they opened the door, the room was empty. William was gone. The only thing he'd left behind was a single bloody footprint on the floorboards. Days later, a messenger brought the terrible news. William Batt had been killed in a duel in London that very same afternoon. This is where history and folklore get a little tangled. The dramatic tale was recorded by the Victorian writer Elizabeth Gaskell in her biography of Charlotte Bronte. And while historical records do confirm a William Batt was killed and buried in Birstall at the end of December 1684, the most chilling details, the apparition, the date, and the bloody footprint, come to us from this legendary ghost story, not from other historical accounts. In 1987, a staff member reported seeing a woman in a Tudor-style dress standing silently by a window for several minutes before just fading away. There are also stories of phantom voices, strange smells, and even shelves that have mysteriously dismantled themselves. During an investigation at the hall, the TV show Most Haunted captured footage that appeared to show a spinning wheel and a child's toy moving all on their own. You can see this in more detail in Most Haunted Season 17, Episode 8. Today, Oakwell Hall is a living museum, preserved to show what life was like for the Batt family back in the 1690s, complete with period furniture and beautiful gardens. But as you walk through its quiet rooms, especially the painted chamber, you can't help but feel the history around you. The legend of William Batt is a spooky reminder that in places steeped in so much tragedy, the past doesn't always stay in the past. Sometimes, it lingers in the shadows, waiting to walk its final journey home. Thank you for watching, and remember, sleep well, but keep one eye open, as you never know who is watching from the shadows. Good night.